Hello guys, this is Henrique de Almeida, the drum set coach, changing the world one drum at a time. Check out my online school, thedrumsetcoach.com, and I'm here to share with you some exciting information. Let me ask you a question. What would happen if you had more time to do what you want to do? What would happen if you're more confident, if you're more organized, and if you have enough time on the day to do the things that are really important to you? Would you agree with me if you have more time during the day, more free time, you'd be able to practice more, correct? Well, I have a new system that I'm so excited about because it will allow you to have more time to be who you want, to achieve more, to move forward and be more confident. This new system that I've developed is well tested and is not new material. It's material based on the greatest masters that ever taught drums in this planet. Have you ever been frustrated that you don't have enough time to practice everything you need to practice, or frustrated that you have to buy 20 books and each book address something different? For a long time, I was frustrated myself with not having enough time to do what I want to do with my life. Not enough time for my family, not enough time for my kids, not enough time for my bands, not enough time to pursue my dreams because my day was so busy, especially drumming, that's my passion. Now with this new way that I developed after so many years of struggling with this, I have more time for my family, for my friends, for my bands. I have more time for recreation, and I have time to practice drumming, which is something that I absolutely love. And when I figure out, I'm thinking, how come I can't believe no one came up with this idea yet. And I put all the different pieces of this puzzle that's well tested, this knowledge that was passed to me by the great masters, Freddie Gruber, Jim Chapin, Alan Dawson, Gary Chapin, John Ramsey, Dr. John Wooten, some of the top masters of this instrument, Joey Morello, and so many other greats. I put all that together. For many years, I have so many problems that I was getting frustrated. The first problem was I had to carry so many books everywhere. I have to have 3 copies because I practice in 3 different locations. So I had to have the Will Coxon book, the Nard book, the Swinging Rudiments, the Jimmy Krupa book, Buddy Rich book, 5 books of Gary Chapin, the Alan Dawson book, the Ted Reed book, Stick Control book, the Accents and Rebound book. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on, double bass book and this book. I mean, it's a pile of books. I can't carry that everywhere. So I start like trying to organize folders and put Xerox, and I go to the practice and I have this monstrous amount of stuff in front of me, plus all those books, they're mixed with text. I don't want to read on the practice room. I want to practice on the practice room. To create a library like that we're gonna present me with exercise for all those techniques is gonna cost me a fortune, so I want to save money. As I develop as a musician, I start to realize that all those books that I was studying with and all those lessons that I was taking with those masters, they were presenting me with incomplete information, great information. I want to say for the record, I would not be sitting here without my teachers, okay? So I only arrive at this conclusion thanks to them. But they're presenting me isolated information. So if I want to start, I'll study finger control with Gary Chapin. Then I start rudiments with Dr. John Wooten. Then I start jazz with Alan Dawson and John Ramsey. Then I'll start brushes, I'll consult with Clayton Cameron, right? I study independence with Jim Chapin and the Moeller with Jim Chapin. But I realized all the greatest drummers, including when I went to the gig, you don't separate these. You play all those things together in real life. For musical application, I mix them up. And when I watch my idols, right? Tony Williams, Buddy Rich, Louis Bellson, Vinny Colaiuta, Dave Weckl, Steve Smith, Steve Gadd, Peter Ayers, when they played, and I watch those guys up close, they play all those techniques together, plus they had a flow, a tremendous flow with this stuff. So I never saw a book, I never saw a system that presented me with information as I'm going to use on the gig, with musical forms and combining them all together. So I figured that this was a problem that I had to solve. Another problem that I was having with this separate way of practicing things is that they're not very musical. They didn't represent what I'll be doing on the gig. So I start recording myself on gigs and analyzing how do I sound on the gig and what types of things I'm using on the gigs. And I did this backwards. I start bringing this information from the bandstand to the practice room. Instead of studying those things and taking to the gig, I start taping my gig for years and bring that to the practice room and analyzing and studying. What do I need to know on my gig and how do I get there? I'm a professor at the Berklee College of Music. I teach thousands of students, and I teach so many students that are having great results with this. I didn't invent this. This is not new material. This is material that is a tradition of our instrument. It's just a new way of doing it. And I'm gonna show you throughout this video some great students that are already surpassing my expectations. And I tell my students, I want you to be better than me. I want you to carry this legacy, the legacy of Jim Shaper, of Freddie Gruber, of Alan Dawson, that great knowledge of Sanford Moeller that was passed to me, and now I'm passed to this new generation. With this new way, you'll be able to be one of the guardians and also teachers to pass this down to the next generation. So I'm really excited about that. So I grew up in Brazil, South America, this little kid with a dream of learning jazz, studying jazz, and my dream was to go to the Berklee College of Music in Boston. When I was in Brazil, I was playing with some of the biggest pop stars when I was 16. Alceu Valença, I played a little bit with Gilberto Gil, Luiz Gonzaga, which is the father of Bayonne, and many other artists. Francis Haim, pianist who was a partner with Tom Jobim. Anyway, I had a professional life there as a teenager during my high school years. Then I applied to go to Berklee, but I was denied a couple of times because I didn't have piano knowledge. And then I applied again, I didn't have ear training and harmonic knowledge enough. So that was a struggle to be denied to attend Berklee. But I kept going, I kept insisting, I never quit. So I ended up getting accepted, and I came to Berklee the summer of 1988. And to make a long story short, I did graduate in jazz composition, and then did a master's degree at Southern Miss under Dr. John Wooten. And now I'm a professor at Berklee College of Music. So my hand technique journey start to get better the day that I met one of my longtime now friend and mentor, Mr. John Ramsey at the Berklee College of Music. John Ramsey was my first teacher at Berklee. And when I got to him, my hands, I didn't know how to hold. I thought I knew how to hold the stick. I was a professional, but my grip was messed up. I was having pain. He really fixed my hands. It was a very challenging semester. Actually, it took probably a year for me to understand the grips and to do that correctly. So it took a lot of patience from him to fix those hands. And he taught the way that Alan did, with the pad on the center, and we start working on my grip and understanding of fulcrum and the second fulcrum, the third fulcrum, and French grip, German match grip, traditional grip, American grip. So we spent a lot of time understanding that with John Ramsey, who was very well connected with Art Blakey and Alan Dawson and all that tradition, right? After that, I did go to Alan Dawson myself, and that's when we start to work in rudiments and coordination and independence, and more like on a jazz approach to everything. That's when I learned 120 rudiments, the 26 American rudiments, the 30 Swiss rudiments, the innovation, the chop builders, and the Alan Dawson ritual, which is 15 minutes, you can run 120 rudiments. So that was a wonderful experience. So this is part of my hand training with John Ramsey and Alan Dawson. Then I start going to Gary Schaefer. At some point I was going to Gary and Alan at the same time. So Gary's helped my hands very specific. He's one of the most organized and systematic teachers I ever had, and I owed a lot to him. He started working on my fingers individually. The first time I saw somebody give a hand technique clinic on fingers, Dave Wacko at Berklee in the late 80s. But Dave Wacko's system was involving all the fingers. Gary made to work from every individual finger first, then fingers together, and we work on stickings and just amazing system. So for many years I did Gary's systems for my hands, plus we started other things too. That's gonna be on my next book, but for now we're talking about hand technique. So we have John Ramsey's training on the grip. We got Alan Dawson training on jazz hand technique. And now after I graduated from Berklee Jazz Composition, I go to Southern Miss and get intensive training with Dr. John Wooten. That's where I did my master's degree under, and he really got into rudimental drumming, the tradition of that, the historical elements of rudimental drumming. We got to work into a lot of stuff that involves reading rudiments, execution of rudiments, reading snare drum stuff, orchestral and rudimental. Then I got orchestral experience with the concert band on the Air Force Band for years, 13 years, playing bass drum, snare drum, and I did some consultation with Anthony Cirone, and that's a whole other aspects of the drumming, right? And along that, you know, getting all the teachers like Jim Shaping teaching me the Moeller technique and talking about accents and rebounds, and James Burnsmore system and the Moeller system, and a lot of George Lawrence Stone, like stick control and accents and rebounds. So my hand education is broad, but again, every one of those teachers were giving me one piece of the puzzle, you know. 30 plus years of playing drums, professional, teaching at Berklee, experienced drummer, have all this knowledge, but now it takes too long to do that every day. So I found a solution. I figure out that it's a process. You have to learn the techniques by itself, but then you have to combine them. So I start combining rudiments with Moeller technique, with finger technique, with stickings, all together in musical phrases. So this new system, you start working on everything individually at first. Then we start combining one thing to the next thing. So you develop your single strokes, then your double strokes, right? Then you accents and rebounds, then your paradiddles. Then I introduce you to Moellers, basic Moeller strokes, then finger control. Once you get to finger control and flams and bass rolls, we start mixing little by little, fingers with singles, fingers with doubles, singles with diddles, singles with Moeller, right? And as you progress to the book, you start mixing things within form. By the end of the book, we're talking about musical forms, improvisation skills, memorizations. So the goal of this whole system is for you to express yourself freely without any glitches on the gig, mixing this all together. I'm using that myself. A lot of my students are already using that. And all the masters, all the drummers that I like to use, I saw a video of Sonny Payne from 1950 or 1960s. He's already doing that. He's doing that. He's mixing everything. So this new system is gonna help you to be a better musician. It's gonna help you to save time, save money, and it's gonna take you to the next level. Once you engage on my exercises, you're gonna be engaged 20 minutes, a half hour, or even up to an hour if you want, and that time is productive time. It's time that's well spent with things that are really important. You don't need to stop and go find the next book, or stop and change the click, and stop and break the concentration. So I'm pleased to say that I walk on my office now at Berklee. I open the thing, I know that I don't need to stop, and that 20 minutes or a half hour or 40 minutes or an hour was productive. I'm getting results, and I know it's right there in front of me. I already did all the research for you. It's gonna be boom, just do that and it's gonna work for you. After I figure out how to do this and put this all together, I had to see how can I help students at different levels. So with this new system, we have an entire package that you can go as deep as you wanna go. We have a hard copy book, hardcover book. If you want to just buy the book and start working on this with a teacher or myself privately, we have a downloadable version that you can download, and that's supplemental to the hardcover. I love having hardcover because I can put on my music stand, and I usually have 3 copies of a book. I have an office copy that stays at Berklee, I have an office copy at home, and I have one that's usually on the go of my materials. But I like to have a hard copy because it's organized, pages are not falling, and etc. So I love a hard copy, and a lot of students love a hard copy. Also, a good advantage of a hard copy is when I teach classes and master classes, if I have 20 people, I can say go to page 19, exercise 2. It's very easy to maneuver. If you're a teacher, it's going to help you that. Now, the downloadable version, it's a supplemental version. It can be on your phone, on your iPad, on your device. So if you're on an airplane, if you're in the airport waiting for something, or whatever you want, you can look at it and you can practice mental. So I think it's a great supplement. We also have this course recorded on the drumsetcoach.com, so you can have this third part of the puzzle. So you have a hard copy, a download on your device, and you can watch. You can watch to see how it sounds like, how you should practice. So the coaching course is called the Ultimate Hand Technique and is available at the drumsetcoach.com. And we also have a seminar. You can sign up for the seminars. It happens different parts of the year and it's live. The seminars is great supplement if you're taking the course, because if you have questions and needs to be answered, you can interact with me live. It's a wonderful opportunity, the seminar. And then if you really want to take to the next level, is really private instruction. I only coach 12 people a year, so I actually like that because I have more time for you. But if you take private lessons on Skype, it's one-on-one, just you and I for an hour every week, and then we can really answer all your questions and develop a really systematic coaching system to help you to get to the next level. This new system, this new way of practice really works. I have guys at 16 years old, 18 years old, they didn't come to Berkeley yet, but they got accepted. I have a program that I prepare people to attend Berkeley to pass auditions, and I'm very proud to say I have 100% success rate. Everyone that I prepare passes. But let's take a look at some of my students who are working on this new way of practice, and their hands are just amazing hands, and they're very successful. So let's take a look at some of my students and what are they saying about my system and what are they saying about studying with me.
He just wants to make you the best person and the best musician that you can possibly be. You know, he's an amazing coach and an amazing instructor and mentor to have. Rick has made a huge impact on my drumming as well as my life. You know, he's done so much for me. If anyone wants to study with a world-class teacher, you know, who not only wants to make you an amazing drummer and the best you can be, but you know, he's looking out for you personally. He wants you to be happy, and he's making you driven, you know, and giving you goals to set. All these things are what make an amazing teacher. And then if an amazing teacher is that, then that's Henrique.
So the first class I took with him was Moeller Lab, and then after that I continued studying with him. I took many other classes with him. He's amazing, really good, and he helped me a lot with technique. I think I'm studying with him over a year now. Now we are finishing the hand technique. We are working on singles, doubles, and paradiddle. All diddle combinations.
And we are working on some technique like paradiddle, single, doubles, and some rudiments. And he really told me how to feel relaxed and how to control my fingers, and that's really helpful. And we are trying to play some different time, different speed, and try to control my speed and control my fingers.
The thing that Henrique has kind of brought to my attention has been mostly about technique, because I worked on it on my own, but then I think in the Moeller Lab, he said, you know, I have really great hands, and I hadn't really thought about that much before. I just kind of worked on stuff, and I think my hands kind of came along. And then I started really focusing on it and working on it. And I think because he pointed that out, it made me more motivated to, you know, bring that level up in my playing. He's very critical, but also supportive at the same time, which I think is a really important aspect. You know, he pushes you a lot. You know, he'll point out things that they make you like feel supported and feel kind of inspired to go work on stuff, which I think is a really important aspect of teaching.
It's something that Enrique brings to the table that I think nobody else does. It's like he takes all possible combinations and all the possible methods and he mixes them together. He brings, a lot of hybrid things, and the way he teaches helps you to really cover everything at the same time. By that I mean, for example, if you study with Enrique, you're studying technique, you're studying independence, you're studying reading, musicality, improvisation, all these things at the same time. It's like sometimes you go to a teacher for specific things here and there, but Henry, he has everything. And man, if you can study with somebody that has everything, you will do it. So I personally believe that if you want to improve, I'm gonna say it again, run right now and get to study with the drum set coach, changing the world one drummer at a time. I'm one of them. Okay? Do it.
All right, guys, this new book has over 100 pages. It has the most important hand technique that every drummer should know. The difference between this book and all the other books out there is I create a hybrid system that combines all the techniques in one thing. So not only you're going to develop your double strokes, your single strokes, your finger technique, your molar technique, your bass rolls, your flams, your rudiments. I create a hybrid sticking system that mix everything that I ever learned into musical forms. So there are two options, the hardcover and the downloadable. I suggest you get both, because with the downloadable you can have on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. You have that on the go. If you tour in the airport or whatever you are, you have access to that without carrying. And I would like you to do what I do. I leave my hard copy on the music stand in all my drums. So I mentioned I practice in different places, and I have notes. I make notes. I have tempo marks. I don't want to mess with that. I want to leave in the page that I'm working on. So I recommend you have both. So what we're doing is, if you are kind of a downloadable kind of guy that you just like to have on your computer, that's $30. If you buy the hardcover, it's $30, or you can get both for $40. I just love what I do every day. I love spending time solving problems to my students and to myself. And I'm so excited that I finally figure out how to develop my hands productively. It's saving time. And one of the most enjoyable things that I do every day is watch and be a witness of my students' progress. How do they grow in front of me from A to Z, watching them progress, and is the assurance that this works. And most importantly, all my students, and now you are sitting on this table with tradition. You don't want to sit on a table with the confused drummers, the frustrated drummers. You want to sit on the table with us, happy drummers, productive drummers, and drummers that are now the knights, the guardians of the tradition, but in a modern new way of doing it. Take Jim Shaping, Freddie Gruber, Alan Dawson, take all those masters with you to your gig and to your students. I'm proud of the heritage that I have and this important lineage, and now is available to you in the most practical way of doing it. So let's advance, let's practice together, and let's make our world a better place, one drum at a time.
Hi, my name is Max Diameda, and I'm going to show you a soca beat.